The notification appeared on Han's holodisplay with a soft chime. His fingers paused over the keyboard where he had been coding for the past 6 hours. The message was brief, as all communications from Axelon Corp tended to be. Request for temporary work cessation. DENIED. Employment status. TURMINATED. Han stared at the words, not quite understanding. He had only submitted his paternity leave request 30 minutes ago. He reread the message, hoping he had misunderstood, but the red terminated status blinked steadily at him. This must be a mistake, Han muttered, running a hand through his dark hair. He quickly opened a communication channel to his supervisor, Trell, a Vosian who had always been fair, if somewhat cold. The alien's angular face appeared on screen, skin a pale blue-gray that seemed to glow under the artificial lights of a distant space station. Han, I received notification you are attempting communication after termination. This is irregular, Trell said, voice perfectly even. There's been a mistake, Han explained, trying to keep his voice calm. I only requested standard paternity leave. My wife Jen will give birth any day now. Trell's expression didn't change. There is no mistake. Your request indicated you would be tending to offspring rather than performing your duties. This constitutes a biological inefficiency that Axelon cannot support. Han felt his heart race. But I've worked for Axelon for 3 years. My performance ratings are in the top percentile. It's just 4 weeks of leave. Your past performance is not relevant to future inefficiency. Vosian corporate policy is clear. Biological distractions that reduce productivity are grounds for immediate termination. Trell paused, head tilting slightly. This is standard procedure. From the bedroom, Han heard Jin call his name. Her voice sounded strained. He glanced at the doorway, torn between his wife and salvaging his job. My wife needs me right now, Han said, his voice tight. But this conversation isn't over. It is, in fact, over, Trell responded. Axelon thanks you for your service. The call disconnected before Han could respond. He sat frozen for a moment, then rushed to the bedroom, where Jin was sitting on the edge of the bed, one hand on her swollen belly. The contractions have started, she said, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. It's happening, Han. Han pushed aside his shock and focused on his wife. I'm here. Let's time them and call the doctor. Hours later, as Jin rested in the hospital bed with their newborn daughter sleeping in a clear bassinet nearby, Han finally had a moment to process what had happened. He pulled out his tablet and began searching for information about Vosian employment practices. What he found stunned him. Dozens of forums filled with similar stories. Humans fired for requesting parental leave from Vosian employers. One post caught his eye from someone claiming to be a former Vosian cultural liaison. Vosians don't understand human child rearing. Their offspring mature independently from birth. They see our parental care as an evolutionary weakness, not a strength. To them, a worker who diverts energy to offspring is defective. Han leaned back in his chair, looking at his sleeping daughter. Her tiny hand was curled into a fist, her face peaceful. A defect. An inefficiency. The thought made his chest tight with anger. His tablet pinged with a message. His automated job search had already found 3 potential positions. All were with human companies, all with lower pay than Axelon. The family's savings would cover expenses for a while, but with a new baby, their financial future suddenly seemed precarious. Jin stirred in her sleep, her face showing the exhaustion of childbirth even in rest. Han reached out and gently touched her hand. She had already given up so much for this child. Her own career was on hold, and now his income was gone too. I won't let them get away with this, Han whispered to his sleeping family. Not just for us, but for everyone they've done this to. He began typing on his tablet, searching for legal precedents, for others who had fought back against the cold Vosian corporate policies. What he found gave him hope. A human rights attorney named Song who specialized in interspecies labor disputes. Han looked at his daughter again. "I'm going to fix this," he promised her quietly, "and maybe change things for other families too." Outside the hospital window, the city lights shimmered against the night sky, some from human buildings, others from alien structures. Han had always seen that mixed skyline as a symbol of cooperation. Now he wondered how many other cultural misunderstandings were hiding in plain sight, waiting to disrupt lives just as his had been disrupted today. Retries Han rocked his daughter Minna gently as he balanced his tablet on his knee. 3 weeks had passed since her birth, and he had fallen into a rhythm of caring for her while sending out job applications during her brief naps. So far, he had received only 2 responses, both offering significantly less pay than his position at Axelon. The soft chime of an incoming video call made him wince, worried it might wake Minna. He quickly accepted the call, keeping the volume low. "Mr. Lee, I'm Song Yun, the attorney you contacted about your termination from Axelon." The woman on screen had short black hair and sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Han had almost forgotten reaching out to her in his exhausted haze of new parenthood. "Yes, thank you for calling back," Han whispered, shifting Minna to his shoulder. "I wasn't sure if my case was worth your time." Song leaned forward. "Your case isn't just worth my time, Mr. Lee. It might be exactly what I've been waiting for." Han raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean? Can we meet in person? There's a lot to discuss, and it appears you have your hands full at the moment." Song's eyes softened as she looked at the sleeping baby. The next day, Jin took over baby duties while Han met Song at her office in the city center. The building stood in the human quarter, deliberately away from the sleek, angular architecture preferred by non-human businesses. "I've been tracking Voshan employment practices for 3 years, Song said, showing Han a wall of data visualizations. They control approximately 43% of human employment sectors, particularly in technology and off-world operations. Han stared at the charts. "That's much higher than I realized." Most people don't realize it because they operate through subsidiary companies with human-friendly names. Song pulled up another screen. "But here's what's truly concerning. Their termination rates for employees requesting family-related leave." The graph showed a clear pattern: 100% termination rates for any employee requesting parental leave. "This can't be legal," Han said. "That's the problem," Song replied, sitting at her desk. "Technically, it is. Interspecies labor law is still evolving, and there's no specific protection for biological differences in family structures. The Vosjans have exploited this gap." Han thought of Minna at home, but surely someone has challenged this before. Many have tried through standard human channels, but those have no jurisdiction over Vosjan corporations. Song's eyes lit up. "What we need is to take this to the Interplanetary Labor Tribunal directly, and your case is perfect." "Perfect? How?" "Your performance records were exceptional. You worked for them for 3 years without incident. The termination came immediately after a paternity leave request, with the reason explicitly stated as biological inefficiency." Song tapped her desk excitedly. "And most importantly, you have the communications recorded." Han nodded. "I save all work communications. It's standard practice in systems analysis. That recording of Trell will be crucial evidence." Song pulled up a new document on her screen. "If we file a case with the tribunal, we'd be the first humans to challenge Vosjan labor practices at an interplanetary level. It would set a precedent." Han thought about it, feeling the weight of the decision. "What are our chances?" "Honestly, unknown. This would be groundbreaking." Song looked at him seriously. "It would also be public. Your name would be attached to this case forever." Han remembered the forum posts he'd read from other terminated employees, people who couldn't afford to fight back, who had accepted their fate and moved on. "I should talk to Jin about this," he said finally. That evening, as they put Minna to bed, Han explained everything to Jin. "It would be a long process," he concluded, "and I should really be focusing on finding a new job." Jin was quiet for a moment, watching their daughter sleep. "When I think about Minna growing up," she said finally. I want her to see a world where being human, where having a family, isn't considered a defect. She turned to Han. If this attorney thinks your case could help change things, I think you should do it. It might not work, Han warned. We could go through all of this for nothing. Jin smiled. Someone has to be first, right? Why not us? The next morning, Han called Song. We want to proceed with the case, he told her. What's our first step? Song's face grew serious. I'll file the formal complaint with the tribunal today. Once that's done, prepare yourself. Axelon won't take this lightly, and neither will the Vosians behind them. Han looked at the picture of Jin and Mina on his desk. I'm ready. This isn't just about my job anymore. No, Song agreed. If we succeed, it never was. The Interplanetary Labor Tribunal was housed in a massive dome structure designed to accommodate all known sentient species. Han sat beside Song at a curved table, facing 3 tribunal judges, a human, a Vosian, and a Meridan, who served as the neutral third party. Across the chamber, Axelon's legal team consisted of 2 Vosians and 1 human attorney. Han straightened his tie nervously. 4 months had passed since his termination, and today marked the first formal hearing of his case. The tribunal recognizes Representative Null of Axelon Corporation, announced the Meridan judge, their translucent skin shifting colors as they spoke. The lead Vosian attorney stood. Null was tall and slender with the characteristic blue-gray skin of all Vosians, but his eyes seemed unusually expressive for his species. This case should be dismissed immediately, Null stated. Axelon followed standard employment practices consistent with interspecies labor agreements. The human Li Han was terminated due to clear indications that his biological reproductive choices would impact his productivity. Song rose to her feet. My client was terminated for requesting legally established paternity leave. This represents discrimination based on biological differences between species. The Vosian judge leaned forward. Why would a male human require leave for reproduction? The biological parent who bears offspring is female, is it not? Han noticed the human judge suppressing a sigh. Human child rearing is a cooperative process. Song explained patiently. Both parents typically participate in caring for infants. This is precisely our concern, Null interjected. Human reproduction requires not 1 but 2 workers to reduce productivity for a single offspring. From a corporate perspective, this is deeply inefficient. Song turned to the judges. I would like to present evidence of my client's work record prior to termination. As she displayed Han's performance metrics, the Vosian judge studied them with apparent curiosity. These are indeed excellent ratings, the judge admitted, which makes the decision to terminate even more logical. Why would Axelon allow such a valuable resource to be diverted to offspring care? Han felt a flash of anger at being called a resource, but remained silent as Song had instructed. The hearing continued with testimony from Trell, Han's former supervisor, who appeared via holographic projection. Can you explain your reasoning for terminating Mr. Lee? The human judge asked. Certainly, Trell replied. When Han requested leave for offspring care, it indicated a fundamental biological inefficiency. Vosian young require no parental care from birth. They emerge fully capable of basic functions and quickly integrate into educational collectives. No productive adult time is wasted. The human judge frowned. But Han is not Vosian. He's human. Precisely the inefficiency, Trell stated, as if the judge had made his point for him. Axelon cannot maintain competitive advantage if human employees divert productive hours to offspring that could survive in educational facilities. Song stood again. I would like to call Dr. Park, human developmental biologist, to testify. Dr. Park, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes, explained human infant development in methodical detail. Human infants are born in an extremely underdeveloped state compared to Vosian young. Without constant care for several years, they simply would not survive. The Vosian judge tilted his head. This seems a tremendous evolutionary disadvantage. Why has your species not developed more independent offspring? It's actually considered an evolutionary advantage. Dr. Park countered. The extended dependency period allows for complex neural development and social bonding that forms the basis for human innovation and emotional intelligence. Han watched as the Vosgian representatives exchanged glances. They seemed genuinely confused, not malicious. During a brief recess, Han approached Song. They really don't understand, do they? It's not just corporate policy. They can't comprehend why we care for our children. Song nodded. That's becoming clear. This case isn't just about labor law anymore. It's about fundamentally different approaches to raising young. When the tribunal reconvened, Null presented a new argument. If humans require this extensive care period for offspring, then perhaps they should be classified as a different employment category, with adjusted compensation to account for these biological inefficiencies. The human judge looked offended. Are you suggesting humans should be paid less because we care for our children? I am suggesting, Null replied calmly, that different biological imperatives should be reflected in employment structures. Just as we wouldn't expect aquatic species to perform optimally in desert environments, we shouldn't expect species with extensive offspring dependency to perform at Vosgian efficiency standards. Han felt a chill. The argument was framed logically, but its implications were deeply troubling. The Meridian judge raised a hand. These biological differences raise important questions beyond this individual case. The tribunal will adjourn to consider whether different evolutionary approaches to reproduction constitute grounds for species-based employment classifications. As the judges departed, Han turned to Song. This is getting bigger than just my termination, isn't it? Song's expression was grim. Much bigger. They're now questioning whether humans deserve equal treatment in the interstellar economy because of how we raise our children. Han glanced at the image of Minna on his tablet. Then we need to show them that how we raise our children is exactly what makes us valuable. Han paced outside the tribunal chambers, unable to sit still. 3 days had passed since the last hearing, and news of his case had spread across human colonies and beyond. His personal message channel had filled with supportive notes from other species with family structures similar to humans. We need to change our approach, Song said, reviewing notes on her tablet. The Vosgians see our parenting as a weakness. We need to show it's actually our strength. Han stopped pacing. How do we do that? We have new witnesses, Song replied, gesturing to the diverse group waiting nearby, including a Vosgian evolutionary biologist who's been studying human development patterns. When the tribunal reconvened, the chamber was packed. Additional viewing screens had been installed for the overflow crowd. Before we continue with Axelon's arguments, Song announced, we wish to present new evidence regarding the relationship between human parenting and workplace performance. The Vosgian judge looked skeptical, but nodded permission. Their first witness was Dr. Lim, a human neurologist. Using simple three-dimensional brain scans, he showed how parental interaction shaped infant neural development. The human brain develops differently than Vosgian brains, Dr. Lim explained. Our extended parenting period creates neural pathways that support advanced problem-solving, emotional reasoning, and creative thinking. These aren't inefficiencies. They're specialized adaptations. The Vosgian representatives watched with obvious confusion. Next came Vale, the Vosgian evolutionary biologist. His appearance caused a stir among the Axelon team. I have studied human family structures for 20 years, Vale stated. What Vosgians misunderstand is that human parenting doesn't just raise offspring. It creates fundamental cognitive advantages that no Vosgian educational collective could replicate. The Vosgian judge leaned forward. Explain. Vosgian young develop independence early, true, Vale continued, but they develop narrowly. Human offspring, through extended dependency and emotional bonding with caregivers, develop neural flexibility. This explains why humans often solve problems that Vosgian think tanks cannot. They make connections we cannot see. Nal rose to object. This is irrelevant to employment contracts. On the contrary, Song countered, it goes to the heart of value. Axelon terminated my client for taking paternity leave, claiming biological inefficiency. We're demonstrating that this very biological feature creates unique workplace value. The hearing continued with an unexpected witness, a Tellurian business owner whose species also had intensive parenting requirements. After observing human workplace patterns, the Tellurian testified, I restructured my company to mirror their family leave policies. The result was a 32% increase in innovation metrics and employee retention. Han watched as the judge's expressions changed from skepticism to interest, especially the Meridian. During the midday recess, a message arrived from Jin with a new video of Minna smiling. Han showed it to Song. This is what they don't understand, he said quietly. Each of these moments changes me, makes me see the world differently. Song's eyes lit up. That's it. We need you to testify about how parenting has changed your approach to problem solving. When the tribunal resumed, Han took the witness stand. He felt nervous but focused on the images of Jin and Minna in his mind. Since becoming a father, Han explained, I've noticed changes in how I approach system analysis problems. Before, I focused only on efficiency. Now I consider resilience and long-term sustainability. Could you provide an example? The human judge asked. Han nodded. In my last project for Axelon, I redesigned a communication protocol that had been failing under stress. The traditional Vosgian approach would optimize for speed, but I built in redundancies that allowed for growth and adaptation, much like how human parents teach children to handle unexpected situations. The Meridian judge made notes, and this redesign was successful. It exceeded performance metrics by 40% and is now Axelon's standard protocol. Han replied, It's still in use despite my termination. As Han stepped down, he noticed the Vosgian judge watching him with new interest. The final witness was a surprise. Representatives from 3 other species with family-centered reproduction had petitioned to join the case. The Meridian judge allowed brief statements. The Diraxian diplomat spoke first. My species shares human parenting patterns. We've experienced similar discrimination from Vosgian employers. This case will affect millions across 16 star systems. By the end of the day, the case had transformed. What began as one man's wrongful termination had become a landmark dispute about different evolutionary approaches to intelligence and their place in the interstellar economy. Outside the tribunal, reporters from dozens of worlds waited for statements. Han stood beside Song as she addressed them. This case is no longer about one company or one human, she said. It's about recognizing that diversity in biological approaches is valuable. The very features the Vosgians consider inefficient may be the source of our greatest contributions. As the crowd dispersed, Han received another message, this one from a group of Vosgian scientists requesting interviews about human parenting practices. Something's changing, Han told Song. They're starting to see us differently. Song nodded. Now we just need the tribunal to see it too. The tribunal chamber fell silent as the 3 judges returned after 5 days of deliberation. Han gripped the edge of his seat, feeling the weight of the moment. Beside him, Song appeared calm, but he noticed her rapidly tapping finger, a sign of her hidden tension. The Meridian judge spoke first, their skin pulsing with soft blue light. After careful consideration of all testimony and evidence, this tribunal has reached a unanimous decision in the matter of Li Han versus Axelon Corporation. Han held his breath. Unanimous meant the Vosgian judge had agreed. We find that termination based on biological differences in reproduction and offspring care constitutes discriminatory practice under Interplanetary Labor Code Section 47. A murmur swept through the chamber. The human judge raised a hand for silence. Furthermore, we establish new protection standards for all sentient species. No corporation operating in interplanetary commerce may penalize workers for biological imperatives essential to their species' continuation. Han felt Song's hand grip his arm tightly. They had won. Axelon Corporation is ordered to reinstate Li Han with full back pay and benefits. Additionally, they must implement appropriate leave policies for all species based on documented biological requirements. The Vosgian judge leaned forward. "I wish to add a statement," he said, surprising everyone. "This case has revealed a significant oversight in Vosgian understanding of alternate evolutionary paths. What we perceived as inefficiency may in fact be specialized adaptation. I recommend a full review of our employment practices across all sectors." Outside the tribunal, reporters swarmed Han and Song. Transmission beams carried their images to worlds throughout the settled galaxy. "What does this mean for interspecies employment?" a reporter asked. Song answered carefully. "It means that diversity is now protected, not just tolerated. Species differences are recognized as potential strengths, not deviations from an arbitrary standard." 3 months later, Han stood nervously outside the Axelon headquarters. His reinstatement was scheduled for today, but rumors had circulated about significant changes within the company following the tribunal's ruling. Trell met him in the lobby, the Vosgian's manner noticeably different.